Hi, budding structural engineers. Welcome to the structural engineering lectures on the advanced steel design. We are discussing the transmission line towers. In the first part of this, we have seen the fundamentals as well as the general discussions and the relation between shape, sag, and tension. In the second part, we have seen the IS 802 codal specifications as per the part 1, section 1, part 1, section 2, part 2, part 3, right? And now in today's class we shall see a numeric problem with these fundamentals, right? Now let us see a numeric problem, student, right? This is how a steel tower is to be erected for a transmission line tower for a single circuit three phase means containing 3 power conductors as well as 1 ground wire, which is operating at 50 Hz frequency, right, or 50 cycles per second, to transmit 50 megawatts at the rate of 0.75 power factor for 259 kilometer length, right? The total length is 259 kilometer, right? Now the data is like this. The voltage of transmission is 132 kV and the power conductor data is 30 mm ACSR, means aluminum cable steel reinforced, power conductors consisting of 54 strands of 3 mm aluminum plus 7 strands of 3 mm steel is used as power conductor, right? Here these 7 strands of steel will add the tensile property to this aluminum conductor, which itself is transmitting the power. Actually that is a main conductor part. However, the steel, if you add, then that will add the tension capacity, right, the strength, so that it will add ductility to the power conductors when they are stretched, right? And the self weight of the power conductor is 16.76 Newton per meter, and the permissible axial tension in the power conductor, this is all power conductor data, students, right, is equal to 35.6 kilonewton. Means at 35.6 kilonewton only the power conductor will break, right? And its Young's modulus is equal to 0.842 10 to the power 5 Newton per mm square, and coefficient of linear expansion alpha is equal to 19.9 to 10 to the power minus 6 per degree centigrade. And the shape factor that of these power conductors, because it is a square shape, student, right? Hence this shape factor is equal to 2 by 3 or is equal to 0.67. That is how the data pertaining to the power conductor, right? Similarly, the other data is the ground wire data. Here the ground wire is 10 mm galvanized iron wire is used. 10 mm dia galvanized iron wire is to be used, right? And the self weight of this wire is equal to 6 Newton per meter, and the permissible tension at which it breaks is equal to 25.4 kilonewtons, right? And that is the next data. Next data we do have clearance data, right? What should the clearance from the ground, right, or the clearance between the power conductor to power conductor or power conductor to the ground wire. That data is given like this, right? Vertical height of the power conductor above ground is equal to 6.7 meter, right? And all these are the minimum values, right, not less than, right? And vertical spacing between the power conductors not less than 3.5 meter. Horizontal spacing between the power conductors, right, not less than 6.25 meters. And height of the ground wire above the topmost power conductor shall be half the horizontal spacing of the power conductor is equal to h by 2, right? And telegraph wires should not be provided under the transmission lines, right? That is how the clearance data, right? And next data is the temperature data, right? The minimum temperature T1 is equal to 5 degrees centigrade and the maximum temperature T2 is equal to 60 degrees centigrade. That is from the IS 802. Even the other day we have seen this. You please refer back, right, to the isoplates of the given site, right? Now that is how the data for the temperature is given. Now wind data, right? Directly the design wind pressure is given as a PD 1.5 km per meter square, and the snow data is given that no snow load is no snowfall is expected to be there in the region. And the tower data is, it is given as a tangent tower, right, where generally for the tangent tower theta should be less than 2 degrees centigrade, and the wind span or the weight span L is equal to 240 meters. That is how the data, different data are given, right? Now what is asked, student, is suggest a suitable geometry for the tower and determine the length of each member. Determine the length of means you just now suggest a suitable geometry as well as find the lengths of each of these members, right? That is the first part of this design problem. However, in the second part we will once again see its analysis. The third part will see its design. In the second part we will see arriving at the loads. The third part we will see the analysis for getting the different forces in the various members, and in the fourth part we will see the design of the different components like this, right? Angle or single angle or double angle as appropriate, right? Now let us see here. I'll show the photographs of this where we'll try to see how, right? This is how a transmission line tower of single phase, right, like this, right? Single phase or this is what called either single phase or single circuit three phase, 3 power conductor plus one ground wire, like this, right? Therefore that is how 1 2 3 power conductors and one ground wire, right? Right? And even let us see this is one photograph of single circuit 3 phase single circuit, right? This is also another photograph, right, of single circuit where these are the two 3 power conductors and ground wire, and this is how a single circuit transmission line tower, right, which is erected using steel tube pylons, right, steel tubular pylons, right, of varying cross section. This is now the latest trend, students, right? This is also for this single circuit. Even you can see at the top the ground wire, right? Now this is for double circuit, right? We do have the 1 2 3, right? 1 2 3, right? Therefore that is a 2, right? Even the ground wire here, that of this circuit, right? Even the ground wire on the other side, that of this second circuit, right? Now like this, right? Now this is what actually the suspension type transmission line tower. Now next one, this is also a schematic of double circuit suspension type power conductor, right? This also we saw the other day, right? This also we have seen, right? And now let us see this, right? This is also 1 2 3 plus 3 power conductors plus 3 power conductors plus one ground wire. That is how double circuit. This is how suspension type, this is how the tension type. Both are there here, right? However, now let us examine this figure, right? This is what the double circuit, right, wherein we can see that we do have, right, 1 2 3 one ground wire, right? 1 2 3. Now even you can see there's a lot of deviation. Actually this wire should have gone like this, but there is a lot of deviation, right? That is how the angle of deviation. This is what a tension type transmission line tower, student, right, with double circuit. Now let us move back to another figure wherein this is also a tension type. We do have 1 2 3 plus 1 2 3, right? 3 plus 3, right? Double circuit, right? Double circuit transmission line tower. Now I'll move back to the this type wherein this is my target. What we are designing is this one, right? What we are trying to design is this one, right? Now let us examine how to design this, this transmission line tower, right? Now from the given data now, what now I'll do is I'll try to fix the geometry as just now I've shown, wherein for fixing the geometry I need to find the I need to fix the height first of all, right? Therefore what is already given in the problem is height from the clearance point of view. What is given is should not be less than 6.7, therefore I'm assuming 6.7 height from the clearance requirement, right? And next one is the vertical spacing between the power conductors, these power conductors, right? This one, right? This vertical spacing, students, right? These power conductors, right? The first one is right from the sag point of view 6.4, right? And next one is right that 6.7 is after the maximum sag to the ground 6.7, right? However, this is of the vertical clearance, right? That is all. This should not be less than this should not be less than 3 point should not be less than 3.5 is given, but now we are assuming it to be 4 meters. This value I am assuming it to be 4 meter, right? Now the next one, the height of ground wire above the topmost power conductor, what is given is it should not be less than half the horizontal distance between the power conductors, right? Now you can see that the horizontal distance between the power conductor, what is given in the problem is say 6.25, half of that is equal to 3.125. Therefore here this distance to this distance is equal to 3.125, right? That is how the all three when clubbed together, right? 6.7 plus 4 plus 3.125, it now works out say 13.825 meters is the total height, just without taking into account the sag, right? Even for which now I need to add the sag, maximum sag also. Now let us move back. How to calculate that sag is like this, right? That what now I'll do is the sag or dip is given by this formula W square by 8ph, where the length of this power conductor from one tower to the other tower is 240 meters, like this, right? Therefore 240 meters, right? Therefore now that I am just recalling that, and the weight of this power conductor at maximum temperature means its own weight, like this. At maximum temperature W2 is given as 16.76 Newton per meter, and the tension in the power conductor, maximum tension, right? If 35.6 kilonewton is applied to this, then this power conductor will break. Right? That is how the maximum tension. Actually, that maximum tension is now given by T1. That T1 will be there. Maximum tension will be there when temperature is minimum at small T1. When temperature is small T1, right? In winter seasons, lesser temperatures will be there, right? Colder is the weather, therefore lesser temperature will be there. T1 is less. In which case the tension in the power conductor will be maximum, because now they are almost stretched. Therefore, once they are stretched, now they will have maximum tension, right? That is all. And whereas now at maximum temperature of T2 degree centigrade, right? This is a sulfate. W2 is equal to 16.76 Newton per meter. Therefore, corresponding to that, what is that tension? What is the tension in the power conductor? That I need to find out. What is T2? Corresponding to maximum temperature. When temperature is maximum, then dip is more, then tension is less, right? When temperature is less, the stretch is the dip is less. However, the tension in the cables are power conductor will be more. Therefore, now I need to find out what is T2. Or now I'll calculate like this, right? The area of this power conductor is having 54 plus 7 strands of the diameter 33 mm. Therefore, now pi by 4 3 square multiplied by 54 plus 7 is equal to 61. is equal to 61. That now works out around 431 mm square, students, right? And the change in temperature T2 minus T1 is equal to 60 minus 5 is equal to 55 degrees centigrade, right? However, since wind gusts are not likely to cover the complete span, the swinging of the conductor is continuous, right? Now like this, right? The swinging of the conductor is continuous. Hence, the intensity of the wind can be reduced to 75%. Means 25% can be deducted, and you can take only 75% is effective, right? And the wind load. Now I need to calculate the wind load on the power conductor at lesser temperature T1 degree centigrade. Therefore, that is equal to W1 is equal to, now that is how 75% of 1.5 kilonewton per meter square, that multiplied by the shape factor of this power conductor, circular shape, is equal to 2 by 3, and the diameter of this is 30 mm or 30 mm or 0.03 meters, right? Therefore, that shape factor 0.67 multiplied by 0.03 diameter multiplied by the wind intensity. Now I'll get so many Newton per meter or kilonewton per meter. Now that works out say 0.0225 kilonewton per meter or 22.5 Newton per meter, right? That is how when temperature is minimum, W1 is this much. However, now I'll calculate when temperature is maximum. When temperature is minimum, then also the wind load can act, right, like this, of 22.5 Newton per meter in the horizontal direction, right? In addition to the self-weight in the downward direction, right, the wind load can act, right? That is how 0.0225 kilonewton per meter or 22.5 in addition to the self-weight acting in the downward direction, right? That is how now I'll get the vectorial sum of these two, right? However, the self-weight of the power conductor is already given in the problem as 16.76 Newton per meter. Therefore, now R is the square root of this 22.5 whole square plus 16.76 whole square. Now that works out the weight of the power conductor at minimum temperature T1 degree centigrade with the wind, right, is equal to say 28.06 Newton per meter or 0.02806 kilonewton per meter. However, when temperature is more, then no wind should be considered, because more temperature when one particular load is more, either earthquake or wind, then other loads should not be considered, right? That is how now I'll say W2, right? In such a case, without wind, only the self-weight of this power conductor will be acting in the downward direction. There is no horizontal or lateral force is not there. Therefore, that is equal to W2 is equal to 16.76 Newton per meter or 0.01676 kilonewton per meter. Now, once we know this W1, W2, then what I'll do is I'll go to the equation 13, student, the other day, which you have derived in the previous part. Now you see this. This is the formula of the change in arc length when temperature rises from T2 minus T1 equal to delta S2 minus delta S1 is equal to alpha T2 minus T1 multiplied by L. That works out W2 squared L cubed divided by 24 T2 square minus T2L divided by AE minus W1 square L cubed divided by 24 T1 square plus T1L divided by AE is equal to alpha T2 minus T1L, right? Where now I'll substitute all these inputs, so that now only unknown is equal to T2 when temperature is maximum, or in the summer, right, in the hot summer, when temperature T2 is maximum, then corresponding to that, what is that tension in the cable, or when maximum dip is there, what is the tension in the cable. Now for substituting in that equation 13, now I'll get tension T2 is equal to 17.92 approximately kilonewtons, when dip is maximum. Therefore, the maximum sag or dip of the power conductor at midspan corresponding to this condition of maximum temperature is equal to D2 is equal to W2 L square divided by 8 T2. Substituting all this, I know W2 L is known, T2 is known, just now we have calculated. Therefore, it now works out around 6.73 meters. 6.73 meter. However, previously I got the height of this total height of this from this clearance point of view. From clearance point of view is equal to 13.825, to which now I'll add this additional 6.7347 from the maximum dip point of view, like this, right? Maximum dip, right? Point of view. So that now you get the overall height of this tower is equal to, should not be less than 20.5547 meters, or say approximately, let's say a higher value, say 21 meters. If I'm assuming the overall height of this tower as 21 meters, and now I'll take the width of the base B is h by 4. Therefore, that now works out 5.25 meters, or say I'll adopt 5.5 meter, like this, right? So that is our base width is equal to 5.5 meter, and height, overall height of this tower starting from the ground level to the peak ground wire location is equal to 21 meters, right? Once I know this, now what I'm assuming is that I have only 3 power conductors, right? 3 power arms are there. Therefore, there is a 1, 2, 3 from where the power conductors are connected. Either if they are tension power conductors, directly they are connected at that location itself. If they are the suspension type, they will be hanging from there, right? Hanging from there as appropriate, right? Now that is how. Now because I do have 3 arms, right? This is the first arm, second arm, third arm. Therefore, at least now I'll assume, right, 1, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, right, 4 panels, right? Therefore, there is in the first panel I do have 1 arm starting and ending. Now the second panel, at the end of the second panel to the starting of this third panel, right? Therefore, till the end of the third panel, second arm is over, right? That is how at the end of this next panel to the top location, third arm. That is how. Now each of 1 meter height, this is my assumption, 1 meter, 1 plus 1 plus, right, all ones, right? Therefore, this is how totally 5 meters. Therefore, now I'll deduct from 21, 5 meter is now gone, right? Gone, and remaining is now 16 meters now. Therefore, that is how. Even within that 16 meter also, now what I'll assume is that I'll try to divide this 16 meter into four panels, right? 2 panels of each of 2 plus 2 meters, like this, right? One panel, and the bottom 2 panels each of 6 plus 6, 12 meter. Therefore, 12 plus 2 plus 2, that will now work out 16 meter plus 5 meter is equal to 21 meter. That is how the height 21 meter is now covered, right? And also the base width is equal to this is 5.5 meter. And what now I'll assume is that the width of this panel, its height is assumed as 1 meter, and its width I'll assume as 1.5 meter. Therefore, each of 1.5 up to E prime, right? 1.5. Therefore, now I'll say these are the different points, right? That is how A, right, or diagonal, right? Diagonal. These are the 4 column legs, right? 1, 2 are seen, 2 are on the back side, right? And this is how the horizontals, right? All the horizontals, right? So on and so forth. And all these are the diagonals, right? And these are the secondary members, right? So on and so forth. And these are the power arm, right? That is all. These are the different components, right? Now this is my assumption that all these angles, all these columns are assumed with a angle section of ISA 130 by 130 by 10, equal angle section at the rate of 0.109 kilonewton per meter and the bottom horizontals are assumed using ISA 80 by 80 by 6 at the rate of 0.073 kilonewton per meter, and all other these diagonals, right, all other members other than this horizontal members, right, other than this all others are assumed as ISA 65 by 65 by 6 at the rate of 0.058 kilonewton per meter. These are the assumptions. Or the sections that of the ISA angle sections which you are assuming for analysis to start with, keeping in view the experience. Right now, once I assume these sections, now I need to find out. Right now, I'll say these are the different joint points. Right, A. On the other side, it is A prime. Right. Now I'll go to the next joint, B prime, C prime, D prime, E prime, right? F prime, right? F prime. Now next one here. Sorry, this is F prime. Sorry, this is not F prime. F student. This is how F level is this one at the second power conductor. F, right? F, right? This is G at the third power conductor level. G prime, right? This is how F prime, and E prime, and this is H where ground bar is located. Right? Here it is erroneously written, student. This has F prime and G prime, but this is what F prime, and this is G prime. This is H where the ground bar is fixed. Right? These are my notations. Once I take these notations, student, then I can calculate the length of each of these members. Now I'll say that what is A prime, that is already assumed, the is equal to base width is equal to 5.5 meter. Then, and also we already assumed this G prime to E prime all are of 1.5 meter, right? Then I need to calculate then what is DD prime, the length of this diagonal, DD prime, CC prime, BB prime, 3 more, right? Therefore what now I'll do is that here over a height of 16 meter, the width is increasing from 1.5 meter to 5.5 meter, means increasing by 4 meters over 16 meters. Therefore, by taking this EE prime as the reference, right, over 2 meter, what is the increment? Now I'll calculate. Therefore, that increment is equal to 2 divided by 16 multiplied by 4. Add to 1.5 meter. Therefore, if I add, now I'll get 2 meter. That is how I'm just interpolating. Therefore, this is the diagonal length DD prime is equal to 2 meters. Like that, now I'll interpolate what is CC prime. Now 1.5 plus this 4 divided by 16 multiplied by 4. Now it works out, say, 2.5 meter. Like that, BB prime. If I interpolate 1.5 plus 1.5 plus, now 2 plus 2 4, 10 divided by 16 multiplied by 4. That now works out 4 meter. Therefore, similarly, if you do that, AA prime over 16 meter is equal to how much? 5.5 meter. Actually, we have started with that and we are ending with that. Therefore, hence the check, right? And once I get the lengths of these horizontal member students, now what I'll do is I'll try to get the lengths of these diagonals AB prime or A prime B, right, is equal to, for that what now I'll do is I know what is this BB prime. Just now we have calculated as 4 meter, student, but this AA prime is equal to 5.5 meter. Therefore, now I'll deduct 4 meter from 5.5 meter. 1.5 is left. Therefore, there is here 1.5 divided by 2. This, if I take a vertical, I have a 0.75 offset here. Even if I take a vertical here, I do have 0.75 offset. Therefore, there is a perfectly right angle triangle. Therefore, AB prime is equal to, now this 5.5 minus 0.75 means 4.75 whole square plus 6 meter whole square. That now works out, say, AB will now work out, say, a value around say now we can calculate this works out, say, around a value maybe some one moment should, right? Therefore that is how square root of 4.75 whole square plus 6 meter whole square, 6 meter whole square, that now works out 7.6526 meters, right, which is equal to a b prime, or like that a prime b, this value is equal to 7.625, right, like that. I think now we can calculate what is bc prime or cb prime. It now works out say 6.8236, and cd prime or c prime d is equal to 3.0104 meter, and ed prime or de prime, it now works out 2.0155 meters, right. Once you get this, I think even now you can get the length of these diagonals also, because this is now square root of 1 square plus 1.5, because that width is equal to 1.5 whole square plus 1 square, right, and that now works out say 1.8027 is the length of these diagonals, right. That is how all the different lengths are calculated, and now once I calculate all these different lengths, and once I fix this the geometry for the given data of this problem, student, in the next step what I'll do is I'll try to get the different forces, that is how the continuation of this second problem, right. Now the second bit of this problem is that now you determine the different various forces, such as lateral forces due to wind, or longitudinal forces if any, or torsional forces if any, due to dead load acting on the tower under the following conditions: 1, normal operating condition, right. 2, topmost power conductor, the broken condition. 3, the ground wire is in the broken condition, right. Therefore that is how the second part of this same problem, student, for the same data for which we have fixed the geometry and for which we have fixed the lens. I hope you are understanding these discussions, right. Now I'll take that of the very first bit under normal operating condition, means no snapping of the wires, everything is intact. Therefore under such conditions, what are the different forces that are acting, I need to calculate. Therefore for which now I'll do the analysis like this, right, like this. Then let us see. However, I do have the three types of forces. One is the lateral force due to the wind on the members, and the second one is the lateral force due to wind on the power conductor, right, and the third one is the lateral force due to wind on the ground wire, These are the three forces that will be there. In addition to that, even I do have the vertical forces, as well as the overturning movements. If at all they are snapped, then the torsional forces, like this, right, the torsional forces. However, we'll see that in the next bit, right. Now within that first subheading is lateral forces due to wind on the members. The first subheading under normal operating condition, we are there in the first condition. Under normal operating condition, all the columns are assumed as ISA 130 by 130 by 10 mm cross section, like this, 10 mm cross section, right, ISA 130 by 130 by 10, right. Now however, now I'll go to the joint B, where I do have the length of these columns, C for columns, H for horizontals, D for diagonals, right. That is how the notation here, right. Therefore if I go to the joint B, student, I do have the columns, right. That is how the columns are there, right, 1 2, right. Therefore on there are the four planes, right, right, like this, right. This plane, right. Therefore in which case if I see even this plane, I do have right, B prime, right, or B prime, B double prime, B triple prime, or B B1, B2, B3, B4 as appropriate. Right? In plan, this is how it can be seen, right? Therefore, on each plane, I do have two column members like this. Right? Therefore, for those two columns of length is average length, right? Is equal to BA plus BC, that whole divided by 2. That is how that length, right? Which is self-explanatory, student. Then now I do have two columns of AB plus BC divided by 2. There is a total length, and the width of such section is equal to 130 mm, or which is equal to 0.13 meter. And now as per the code, we will take the 50% of that of the leeward side area also, in addition to that of the 100% of that of the windward side area. Therefore 1 plus 0.5, total area is equal to 1.5 multiplied by this. Now it works out, say, 2.358 meter square. Like that, I'll go to the horizontals there. Therefore here I do have only one horizontal, student, like this, BB prime. Or if I go to this figure, I do have like this side, we do have 1, 2, 3, 4 columns side. Therefore at this is the joint B. There is a joint B, right? There two columns are there. Here I don't have any horizontal. Had there been any horizontal like this, then what is that length of this horizontal? That is equal to now I am calculating like this, right? Therefore BB prime is the horizontal, right? Therefore 1 BB prime, that BB prime length just so you have calculated. However, that section is assumed as 80 by 80 by some 80 by 80 by 6 mm. I say 80 by 80 by 6 mm, that of this BB prime. All other members are now assumed as ISA 65 by 65 by 6 mm, nominal section, right? Therefore I know that length, and even I know its width 0.08, and that multiplied by 1 plus 1.5, that works out, say, 0.480 meter square. And I do have the diagonals also at that location. Now you see, I do have the diagonal BA prime plus BC prime, are like this, right? Right, B A prime, right, BC prime. Therefore for that, now I'll calculate what are those lengths. I know D for diagonals, right? There are two such BA primes plus BC prime divided by 2. Hence, because from both the directions I do have, right? Therefore at B, right, even one diagonal, even at the same, right, this one. Therefore there are the two sets, one set, another set, two sets, right? Therefore there is a two sets of such diagonals are there. Therefore whose length is equal to BA prime plus BC prime divided by 2, and they are of ISA 65 by 65 by 6 mm. However 1 plus 0.05, 1.5, the total multiplied by their lengths. I know what is BA prime, BC prime, their lengths we already calculated in the geometry. That works out, say, 1.41 meter square. And even I do have the other members here, right? Other members are this secondary member, right? Here this secondary member as well as this secondary member, right? Now you can calculate these secondary member length, students, and you can even, because by this time you already fixed the geometry, now you can calculate what is that length, either from this mathematics, or even you can draw this in AutoCAD and measure the length, and accordingly now means that is how you can measure the length, right? And accordingly now you can put that length for the calculation, right? Now it is calculated as 5 meters. Therefore its section is ISA 65 by 65 by 6 mm, right? That multiplied by 1.5, this 1.5, that works out, say, 0.488 meter square. And for the summation of 2.358 plus 0.48 plus 1.41 plus 0.488 is equal to 4.737 meter square, right? That is how the total exposed area, including that of the 50% of that of the leeward side also. Now the lateral force due to wind on these members at the joint B is equal to the design wind pressure multiplied by exposed area. However, the design wind pressure is given as 1.5 kilonewton per meter square, and exposed area just now we got 4.737. It now works out as 7.10 kilonewton or 7.1055 kilonewton up to the fourth decimal accuracy. Now, likewise, now you can calculate the forces at joint C also, right? At joint C also, right? Then on the columns, right, there are the two columns of each length, as I have just explained in the previous subheading student, which is equal to CB plus CD divided by 2 multiplied by 130, means 0.13 multiplied by 1 plus 0.5. 1.5, it works out say 1.512 meter square, and that of the horizontals, there only CC prime is there. It is of 80 by 80 by 6 mm, therefore 0.08 multiplied by 1.5, it is around 1 meter square. And the diagonals, right, there I do have CB plus CD divided by 2. There are two such, right, that each of 65 by 65 by 6, that multiplied by 1.5, it works out say 0.159, right. Even the secondary members are also there. In the previous case also there were secondary members which were measured as 5 meters. Here if I measure, they are working out to be say 3.5 meters. Therefore that 3.5 multiplied by that 65 mm, 0.065 multiplied by 1.5 is equal to 0.341 meter square. Therefore now I'll get the total summation of all these is equal to 3.115. However, the wind force at joint C on the different members is equal to PD multiplied by AE. PD is equal to 1.5 multiplied by 3.115. It works out say 4.6746, right? 4.6746. Therefore now that is how the forces on the members at joint C are calculated. Now once I calculate that, now I'll move to joint D. There I do have the columns, two sets of the columns with DC plus D divided by 2, each of 130 mm, that will be 1.5, it works out to 0.786 meter square. And horizontal, one DD prime, its length I know, its size is 65 mm, that will be 1.5, it works out to 0.195 meter square. And the diagonals, 2 DC prime plus DE prime divided by 2, each of 65 by 65, right? Size, therefore 65 plan area multiplied by 1.5 is equal to 0.533. Therefore the summation of all the three is equal to exposed area 1.514 meter square. Therefore the lateral load at joint D is equal to PD 1.5 kilonewton per meter square multiplied by 1.514 meter square. It works out say 2.2710 kilonewtons. Now I'll move to joint E. There I do have similarly the columns, two columns ED plus EF divided by 2 multiplied by 130 mm length or 0.13 meter multiplied by 1.5, it is around 0.783 meter square. And horizontals, right, horizontals, if I go to that, right, E, right, the horizontals are there, right, like this, right, EE prime, right, let me go back this, right, here EE prime, actually this is EE, this is FF, right. Therefore this one plus half that of this will come to this EE, and this half will go to this FF. Actually this is not GG student, it is mistakenly written, and this is actually FF, this is GG, this is H, right. Therefore half will go to this part. Therefore there is now I'll take half, right, or say there is a EE prime plus, right, EE prime plus that of this half, right, EE prime by 2, half, remaining half will go to FF prime, right. That each of 65 mm multiplied by 1.5, it works out to 0.219 meter square. And that are the diagonals, right, one diagonal of ED prime, right, ED prime, and two diagonals each of length, just now we have calculated root of 1.5 whole square plus 1 square, it works out say its length is equal to diagonal length is equal to 1.8021, that 1 plus 1, 2 diagonals of each 1.8021, and its angle size is 65 mm multiplied by 1.5, this whole multiplied by 1.5, it works out say around 0.481 meter square, right. And also the cross arms are also connected here. There is the power cross arms, right. These are at EE, cross arms there at which the power conductors are connected. Therefore now you can or you may see this picture, right? That is how I'm just going at the top, right? Student, just wait, right? That is how the we are there at this level. We are there at this level, right? Just now I calculated this. Therefore, what is that area of this, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 angles, right? Like this, right? Or the set of the angles, right? Now, if I calculate, or you can assume, or you can calculate either of the two is true, right? Now it works out. Therefore, this arm or cross arm to support this power connector is equal to 0.75 meter square. It is measured. Therefore, the summation of these 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, it works out same 2.233 meter square is the exposed area. Now, the lateral load due to wind on the members is equal to PD, design wind pressure is equal to 1.5 multiplied with this exposed area. It works out say 3.3495 kilonewton. And next one, the lateral load due to wind on the power conductor is equal to 240 multiplied by because here at this level the power connector is connected student, right? Like this. Therefore, at this level power connector is connected. Now, so far you have seen on these members, and also this power connector is connected. Therefore, on this power connector whose length is equal to that 240 meters, and the diameter of this power connector is 3 centimeter or 0.03, and its shape factor is equal to 2 by 3. Therefore, 2 by 3 multiplied by 0.03 multiplied by 1.5. 1.5 is that wind pressure. How that wind pressure, because of swirling action, it can be reduced by 25%. Because of this dynamic action, it can reduce by 25% as per this IS 802. Therefore, 1.5 multiplied by 0.75. It works out say 5.4027 kilonewton is the second load, lateral load due to wind on the power conductor. Right? Like this, on this power conductor, right? And also the lateral load due to deviation of the power conductor is also there, because now it is deviating like this, right? Therefore, now I am assuming the angle of deviation theta is equal to 1.5 degree, or you will assume 2 degree also, nothing wrong, right? There is a one tower here, the second tower, third tower here, or let me go back to this figure, student, right? Let me go back to this figure, right? That is how I'll go just quickly, right? This figure, right? Now you can see that I do have, right? Now this is what the deviation, right? This is what is coming, and actually it should go in the same direction, but however, this, if it is continued, what is the deviation? 1.5 degree, right? That is how the deviation, now, or like this, even you can see here in this figure that there is a deviation, angle of deviation, right? Like this, right? Therefore, now if I take that as 1.5 degree, right? Right, there is a one tower, the second tower and third tower, right? There is a 1.5 degree. If it is continued, fine, right? Even there, if the deviation is to the left, then the components which are resolved will get nullified. Whereas if it goes in the opposite direction, right, like this, right, in the opposite direction, then both are additive, like this, right? Why? Because if this is theta, the tension in the cable is equal to T. Therefore, if I resolve that, now I'll get say T cos theta and T sin theta. Therefore, even at the other tower also I'll get T cos theta, T sin theta, right? Whereas from the second span also I'm getting T sin theta. Therefore, T plus T is equal to 2T sin theta. Actually acting in the lateral direction, like this, now. Therefore, both are additive now. Then only I'll get the maximum force, right? That is the tension at which the cable's brakes is given in the cable power connector data as 35.6. Therefore, now substitute 2 multiplied by 35.6 multiplied by sin 1.5 degree. It works out say 1.8638 kilonewton. That is how the lateral load due to deviation of these power conductors. Had this been continued to the left, then that 2 t sin theta will get nullified with a vertical component of the t sin theta. Therefore, there is no lateral force due to deviation of the power conductor. Therefore, we have gone in the quite opposite direction. Then only I am getting 2t sin theta. Therefore, worst design, right? Worst design. Now, once I get the forces, all the 3 types of the forces at joint E, now I'll move to joint F. Joint F, right? There, the columns, there are the two columns on 2 faces, right? Each of 130 with 1.5, that works out to 0.78 as we have discussed, and the horizontals, right? Horizontals at that F is equal to 1.5, like this, right? At F, right? This is how E, this is how, this is what called F, right? Therefore, F where power conductor is also there, and next G where power conductor is also there, right? Therefore, these diagonals, right, and these columns, as we already discussed, right? Let us calculate that. Let's calculate that. Hence, the columns 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 0.130 multiplied by 1.5, it works out 7.780 meter square, and horizontals 1.5 and 1.5 by 2, right? That multiplied by 65 mm or 0.065 multiplied by 1.5, it works out 0.2925 meter square, and the diagonals, there are the 4 diagonals, each of 1.8028, and its size is 65 mm, that multiplied by 1.5, it works out 0.7031 meter square, and the cross arm area also assumed or calculated from the experience is equal to 0.75 meter square. Therefore, the summation of all these 4 works out say 2.5256 meter square. 5256 meter square. Then once I get this, now I'll calculate the lateral load due to wind. Lateral load due to wind on the members is equal to 1.5 multiplied by 2.5256, 3.7884, right, like this, 3.7884. now here 3.7884. Next one is lateral load due to wind on the power conductor. As you already calculated in the previous step, it is 240 multiplied 2 by 3.03 multiplied 1.5 multiplied 0.75. It is 5.4027. And also the lateral force due to the deviation of the power conductor, as you already seen in the previous step. The same value 1.8638 is just the same, right? Therefore, put together all the three will now work out 11.0549 kilonewtons, right? Now next, that of the joint G. That of the joint G is same as that of the joint F. Therefore, same, no change in forces, right? Therefore, 3.7884 plus 5.4 plus 1.8638, which is equal to 11.0549 kilonewton. Now I'll move to the joint H, where the ground wire is connected like this. Where the ground wire is connected, right? This one, this point joint H, this point joint H, where the ground wire is connected. Therefore, there I would have the cross arm is also provided there in our figure actually, right? Cross arm as well as the area of the 50% of the diagonal, right? Already cross arm itself is 0.75, already assumed, plus some additionally 0.05. It works out say around 0.8 meter square. And for this area, lateral force due to wind on the members is equal to 1.5 multiplied by 0.8, say around 1.2 kilonewton. Lateral force due to lateral force on the ground wire, right, is equal to 240 is the length of the ground wire multiplied by 0.067 is the intensity of this ground wire from the ground wire data, right? 6.7 Newton per meter, right? That its diameter is equal to 10 centimeter. Therefore, that multiplied by 1.5 design unit pressure, which can be reduced by 25%. It now works out say 1.8009 is a lateral force or lateral load on the ground wire. Third one is lateral load due to the deviation of the ground wire. The ground wire is equal to 2 multiplied by 25.4 multiplied by sine 1.5 degree. It works out say 1.329 kilonewton. 329 kilonewton. Therefore, the all put together will work out say 4.3306 kilonewton. Right? That is how all the lateral forces in the first heading, all the lateral forces on the members 1, 2 on the power conductor and 3 on the ground wire are calculated. Now next heading is the dead loads. I hope you are understanding this discussion, students. Now dead loads acting on the tower. However, using this empirical formula, dead load can be given by 0.04 h square root of m, where m is the total movement due to lateral forces acting at the base. However, that movement m at the base. From this figure, this is how all the forces are calculated at this base, right? Therefore, that horizontal force at B multiplied by its height 6 meter, horizontal means the lateral force at C, that multiplied by 12 meter, lateral force at D multiplied by 14 meter, lateral force at E multiplied by 14 meters, lateral force at F multiplied by 15 meters, lateral force at G multiplied by 16 meters, and lateral force at F multiplied by 17 meter, lateral force at H multiplied by 18 meters, right? This is equal to all the clockwise couples overturning movements, right? That is how now I'll get that overturning movement M is now given by substituting the different numeric values, because by this time I already calculated all these forces in the previous submitting student, right? Therefore, doing that means by substituting all these, this now I'll get the bending moment M is equal to, or the overturning moment M about the base is equal to 811.40 kilonewton meter. However, using this empirical formula, the self weight W is equal to 0.04 H. Total height is equal to 21 square root of 811.4. It is around 23.9273 kilonewton from this empirical formula. However, now I will try to calculate these this dead load from the actual member weights of these different members. However, I know the length of that member AB and that of the BC is equal to 6.0467 meters, and length of this member CD is equal to DE is equal to 2.0155, so on and so forth. We have fixed it in the geometry. Therefore, now I'll calculate what is the total length of all these columns, right, on the all four legs, right, that of this 2, right, 6 point means AB plus BC, right, AB 2, and similarly CD, so on and so forth, right? Therefore 2 6.0467 plus 2.0155 plus that of the columns, the column above this part, right? This is up to this, right? Here onwards, right? 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, right? That is the 4 meters, right? That is 1 multiplied by 4. All are of 130 by 130 by some 8 mm at the rate of 109 kilonewton per meter. That is the intensity of the load. Therefore, if I multiply with this intensity of this load for the 4 columns, now I'll get 15.85 kilonewton. Like that, now I'll calculate the total length of these diagonals on all the 4 sides, right? 2 multiplied by 7.6526 plus 2 multiplied by 6.8236, 2 multiplied by 3.0104 plus 2 multiplied by 2.6576 multiplied by 058, because the intensity of these diagonals of that of these angles is assumed as ISA 65 by 65 by 6 mm at the rate of 0.058 kilonewton per meter. Therefore, now it works out say 9.3468 kilonewton, and all on the 4 sides also we do have the 8 diagonals. This part student, right? This part, right? There is a 1 2 3 4 these diagonals, right? Diagonals in this part, right? In this straight vertical part, there I do have all the 4 faces with 4 diagonals, right? On the 4 faces 8 diagonals, each of 1.8028 with the intensity of this load 0.058. It works out say 3.3468. Therefore, all the diagonals are lower, and that of the horizontals on the 4 faces, there are four um, uh, four sides with each of 4 meter, with each of 4 meter multiplied by 0.075, it works out to 1.1610, and also four sides with 2.5 plus 2 plus 5 multiplied by 1.5, because in this zone I do have each is 1, 1.5, 1.5, 1. There is a 5 in the four spacings. I do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, right? There is a the 5 more horizontals, right? And 2 and 2.5. But for all everything I'll measure, and on all the four sides with the intensity as 0.058. It works out to 2.7840 kilonewton. And also the secondary members, four secondary members of each 5 meter, and as well as four secondary members of each 3.5 meter, and with intensity of 0.058, it works out to 1.9720 kilonewton. And that of the cross arms area we already calculated, that multiplied by the intensity of these cross arms also you can assume. Say it works out around 5.5252 kilonewton. Therefore, if I add all these, right, starting from this 15.85, so on and so forth up to the last one, as this 5.5252, say it works out around 40 kilonewton, right? That is all. However, I got the weight of these members. However, what is the weight of this power conductor? I do have three power conductors of each 240 meter length, and its intensity of the load, right, is 16.76 Newton per meter. It now works out say 12.0672 kilonewton, right? And even one ground wire is there whose intensity is 6 Newton per meter, or 0.006 kilonewton per meter, and over a wind span length, right, of 240 meter, right, is equal to 1.44 kilonewton. And the lineman weight should also be added 150 kg, or it is equal to 1.5 kilonewton. Therefore 40 plus 12.06 plus 1.44 plus 1.5, it works out to around 55.007 kilonewtons. This is from actual calculations, but using this empirical formula, what I got is around I got 23.92. Therefore this 55 will govern the design, not that 23. That is just empirical. If nothing is given, you can use that using empirical formula. But by this time I already know all the geometrical lengths and all the properties are assigned to the different members. Therefore this is that exact value of 55. Around 55 kilonewton is the total dead load acting in the downward direction, right? Gravity load, right? That is what called vertical gravity load. The previous heading we already said lateral load, right? Now let us see. There is when everything is under normal operating conditions. Now let us see the second bit of this problem, that one power conductor broken. The topmost power conductor is broken. That is what assumption, that topmost power conductor is broken, right? That topmost power conductor is there at GG level. HH is the ground wire. Therefore that at the topmost level GG is broken. Therefore up to GG there are no change in forces. Up to below GG there are no change in forces. Only at the joint G only there is a change in force. Now let us see how, right? That is how the one ground one now I'll move to the joint G, where one power conductor is broken. The various forces acting on the topmost power conductor, when they are broken, up to that joint GG there are no changes. Only at the G there is a change in force, right? However, that we already calculated in the previous headings, right? Those values as say at joint G, when everything is intact in the working condition, right? The forces, the lateral forces on the members is equal to 3.7884. I'm just recalling that. Therefore, that there is no change, right? 3.7884. And the second one is the lateral forces acting on the power conductor, it worked out as 5.4027. However, now IS 802 says that once a power conductor is broken, then 60% of that broken load should be taken as the lateral load. Therefore, 60% of that 5.4027, it is 3.2416 kilonewton. 3.2416 kilonewton. And also the third one is that the lateral load on the due to deviation. However, due to the deviation, there will be no change. However, even now I can assume that if at all the top power conductor is broken like this, one moment student, right? If the top power conductor is broken here, if at all this is there, this is not there, therefore this is broken. Therefore, now what will happen is that almost the code says that there should not be any reduction in that load, right? Reduction in the load, because now it will cause the torque about that. However, now let us see what now I am doing is that I have calculated that in the previous subheading as 1.8635. Therefore, that now I am recalling that 1.8638 without any reduction, as per the code, without any reduction. 1.8638, I am not reducing, right, as per the code. Therefore, all put together 3.7884 plus 3.2416 plus 1.8638, it works out say around 8.57 kilonewton. However, that this broken wire on one side will lead to the unbalanced pull in the form of the tension due to this broken condition, which leads to the torque or rotation of this plan area about this central axis of the transmission line tower, right? Now let us see. Therefore, that unbalanced pull or tension because of this broken wire condition, as per the code, is 60% of this maximum working tension is equal to 35.6 multiplied by 0.6. It works out say 21.36. The tension is trying to rotate this and causing torque T, right? This force is located at a distance of 6.25 by 2 at a distance of 3.125, right? Therefore, 25.36 multiplied by this 3.125 is the torque or torsion. However, that is the external force which is resisted by these internal forces generated in the member, which are present at that level as F1 one couple and F1 another couple, which are spaced, right, at say 1.5 meter and 1.5 meter, because here both are 1.5. Therefore, one couple F1 multiplied by A, another couple F1 multiplied by A. Therefore, two such couples is equal to that external torque. This is the internal resistance, torsional resistance. This is the external torque. Therefore, equating both of these, now I get the additional forces in these horizontal members or horizontal diagonal members. Horizontal members F1 as say 22.75. Therefore, while you are designing this member, you additionally add this 22.75 kilonewton in addition to the forces coming from the regular analysis, right? Now, next one, that is how the broken power condition will lead to the torque and additional forces. Now, next one is the dead load as power conductor is broken is 40% of that weight is reduced. Therefore, the dead load relation is by 40%. Therefore, 0.4 multiplied by 240 multiplied by 16.76 will be 10 to the power 3. Now is 1.6089. Therefore, now I'll reduce that from the total dead load what you have already calculated, which was around 55 0.007 kilonewton. Therefore, the total dead load after deduction of this, what is the last 1.6989 is around 53.3982 kilonewton is the third load, dead load, right? That is how for the second condition. Whereas the third condition is that one ground, the topmost ground wire is broken. The topmost ground wire is broken. Therefore, till the point GG, there is no change in force. Till point GG, there is no change in force. Means what are that force at B, C, D, right, E, right, F, G. Now only H. There is a change in force only at the H level, right? That is how. Now the lateral forces acting on the members are same, no change. 3.6102, and the unbalanced pull due to the broken ground wire. However, the code says that when broken wire ground wire is broken, or that of the power conductor is broken, still 100% of the tension should be considered, right? Therefore, now 100% of the working tension 25.4 is equal to 25.4. Whereas for the power conductor it is 60% of that tension will lead to unbalanced pull. Just now we have seen the previous subheading. That is the difference between the ground wire broken and as well as this power conductor broken conditions, right? The next one, this change in dead load is that 60% is intact, only 40% is the loss. Therefore 40% multiplied by 0.4 multiplied by 240 multiplied by its intensity is 6 Newton per meter. It works out to 0.576 kilonewton is the loss which is deducted from 55.0072. Therefore now I'll get 54.4132 kilonewton, right? Once I get these, now I'll show all these values in a tabular format, student, like this, right? Therefore this is one means under normal operating condition, right? Now let me go back to this point B, right? At joint B I got like this the force, right? This is at joint B I got under normal operating condition 1, the lateral force due to wind on the members. It worked out as say 7.1055 at B, 7.1055 at C, 4.6746, so on and so forth. Now I'm just recalling them and I'm just putting them in this table under normal. One means under normal operating conditions, all the lateral forces at different joints. B, right, 7.1055 at C, 4.6710 at D, 2.2760 at E, 10.6160 at F, 11.0549 at G, 11.0549 at H, 4.33 under normal operating condition. And the second one is that when topmost power conductor is broken. However, when topmost power conductor is broken at joint B to joint F, there are no change in the lateral forces on the members, right? That is how same do, right? Same 7.1055, same do up to this F, 11.0549. However, at G we already calculated just now like this, right? 8.57. That now I'll recall. Therefore, there is a that 8.57, right? And also at the point at this point or joint H, there is no change. Therefore, I'll recall the same value. 4.33 is 4.53. 4.33. Only this 11.0549 has reduced to 8.8938. 8.8938. That is how 8.8938 at joint G, right? This force, right? 8.893, right? Whereas when ground wire is broken, till that now I'll recall these forces, right? The 6.3, these forces will be only there. At other locations, there is no change. Therefore, at joint B, same do 7.1055, so on and so forth, up to joint G, previously 11.0549 under normal operating condition. Here also now the same. However, only at that H point. Now instead of 4.33, we have just seen that it works out 3.61028. 3.61028. This value, right? 3.6102, right? That value I am recalling. However, in addition to that, we do have the unbalanced pulls as well as the change in dead roads that you need to see, right? All this table only gives the lateral forces on the different members of the tower. One, under normal operating conditions. Two, when the topmost power conductor broken. For this single circuit 3-phase transmission line tower 3, when ground wire broken, right? These are the lateral forces, and we already calculated the vertical loads as well as unbalanced pulls also, right? That is how the different forces, that are the second problem, student, right? Now let us see the continuation of this, the third problem, right? Using the data given in the above problems, now determine the various forces in the members of the tower. Various forces in the members of the towers, right? Now that is how. However, if I see previously, I do had, right, horizontals, even secondary members, so on and so forth. However, if I keep all these, then that structure is very highly redundant structure. Therefore, what I will do is I'll try to remove these secondary members as well as this horizontal members, so that I can do the manual calculation. If I am doing the manual calculation, I need to reduce the redundancy. Therefore, for doing manual calculations using method of joints as well as method of sections, right? Method of sections, I am reducing the redundancy or removing the redundant members, right? Therefore, that is how my skeleton means my transmission line tower without the horizontal members and redundant members. Without redundant members, it looks like this, right? A, B, C, D, E, right? This F, G, this is G, this is H point, right? So on and so forth, right? Once I get this, already I know what are the total lateral forces acting at these all the levels, right? Therefore, the total lateral force is now resisted by these four legs. Therefore, the total lateral force divided by that four now will give rise to the total horizontal force at the base, right? That works out, say, a student, around a value of, say, it was from this table. Let me go back to this, right? Total horizontal force, right? Our lateral forces were worked out to be summation of these, right? 4.33 dash up to this 7.10. It is around 51.10, right? Therefore, that divided by 4, it now works out around 12.7767, right? Now, however, what is this 50% means, right? On one plane I do have two columns, therefore that divided by 2, right? Therefore, that is on one plane the total force acting is 25.55. 25.55 is the total lateral force acting on these two members, right? That is all. Whereas at bottom of each of these column, only 25.55 divided by 2, that works out, say, around 12.7767, right? Once I get this horizontal force at the base, now what I'll do is, now I'll find out the angle, right? I know the lengths, right? Therefore, with respect to this vertical, right, now using the trigonometry I can find out the angle. Now this angle now will work out from mathematics as 7.125 degrees. Even now I know what is this length and what is this height. Therefore, now I'll take tan theta is equal to opposite side by this adjacent side. Therefore, theta is equal to tan inverse. That now works out to say 57.63 degrees. 57.63 degrees, right? Even, right? Now I'll take this joint A, at which the force in this member, as we say, B prime unknown, right? And AB prime is unknown, and as well as AB is also unknown. Only two unknowns are there, whereas horizontal force of 12.7767 is there. Therefore, now you take sum of the horizontal forces is equal to 0 and sum of the vertical forces is equal to 0. That gives two equations, solving which now I'll get the axial force in this column AB is equal to 68.96 kilonewton, approximately 68.96 kilonewton, as well as the force in this diagonal member. In this diagonal member will now work out by resubstituting in the previous equation. It works out say around 6.8 kilonewton, right? Therefore, now I found out the forces at joint A. Similarly, now I'll move to the joint B. By this time, I know what is the force in the member this AB, right? Only now the unknowns are, even I know what is this force, right? AB prime is equal to BA prime because of the symmetry. Therefore, this force is equal to 6.8. Even this force is equal to AB. In the AB, this force is equal to 68.96. Therefore, only two unknown forces are there. Therefore, FCB and FBC prime. Therefore, by taking sum of the horizontal forces is equal to 0 and sum of the vertical forces is equal to 0, only two unknown forces can be obtained. As further, you can please proceed with this analysis, right? Like that, you can slowly move by joint, right? If many forces are there, then you take a cut section and take method of joints also, right? Method of joints as well as method of sections, right? You cut a section and take some of the movements about that joint, maybe A or B or C as appropriate, so that they will furnish additional equilibrium equations. Solving those two or three additional three equations, you will get all the unknown forces in the members, right? That is how you go on finding out all the different forces in the various members. This is how the third problem, student, which is called the analysis, right? However, this analysis is already taught at engineering mechanics level. Therefore, I'm not going with that method of joints and method of sections, right? It is already taught at graduate level. And the fourth problem is that once I know the various forces, here some 68 kilonewton as well as this some 7 kilonewton in the diagonal. Now I need to design the various members. Already we have assumed this column section has ISA 130 by 130 by 8 mm at the rate of 0.109 kilonewton per meter. However, after analysis, now I got around 68 kilonewton. Whether this ISA 130 by 130 by that 8 mm, is it sufficient to resist this 68 kilonewton or not, right? Therefore, now you check adequacy of this 130 by 130 by 8 mm to resist this 68 kilonewton, right? That is how the design. Even these designs, design for compression and design for tension, is also taught at basic graduate level. Therefore, I'm just skipping up those designs also, students, right? I'm skipping up those basic designs also. You can revisit any standard literature or any standard textbook for such designs, or you may refer back to our further discussions on other playlists for the same. I think now we'll try to conclude, student, right? And in today's class, we have seen the discussions on the analysis, right? First, we have seen the fixing of the geometry, and we found out the lengths, and later onward we found out the various forces such as lateral forces on the members, and lateral forces on the ground wire, as well as lateral forces on the power conductor, lateral forces 1, 2, the vertical forces, as well as the unbalanced loads, right? All the three types of forces were calculated, and even we have the third part of this problem, we have analyzed to find out the various member forces, and the fourth bit, we have proposed the designs. Though we have not done, we can do that using these fundamentals, right? I think now I'll conclude the discussion, student. if you like these discussions on advanced steel design on transmission line towers, you don't forget to click like, share and subscribe, comment and turn on your notifications on our YouTube. We'll meet with another discussion in the next class. Till then, bye bye students.